Now, I'd just like to make a quick video to make a point about how similar communism and capitalism really are, especially when people tend to bat for one of the two camps. Now, the fact is, whenever we look at an ideology, we have to look at its roots. Now, communists are the height of hypocrites because communism was written by the height of capitalism. So if we look at the creation of the Communist Manifesto, which was created out of the request via German internationalists, shall we say, who are hiding in the region of Soho, they requested Engels, a well-known communistic writer, and Karl Marx, who you'll know was one of the most famous names to do with the liberal world altogether, to write what we know as the Communist Manifesto. Now, if we look at someone like Engels, for instance, Engels was a majorly wealthy capitalist in the cotton industry. Now, I can't prove that he was also involved in the slave trade, but cotton, like tobacco and all of these other trades, were primarily run from slavery. So not only is this communist who attempts to speak on the factory worker, he wrote a book called The Conditions of the Working Class in Britain, whilst his father and he were running cotton mills and factories. The height of hypocrisy is ridiculous. It's what we call controlled opposition. Karl Marx himself was funded by none other than who we today know as Philips Electronics. They were the Philips family, who are some of the biggest tobacconists to ever exist. These were incredibly wealthy capitalists. As well as this, Karl Marx had been banned from multiple countries before coming into England because of his anti-nationalist, overtly liberal, disrespectful, terroristic stance on politics and towards those countries. Therefore, when we look at any political policy, we have to take it upon its merit. The people that sanctioned and asked for the writing of the Communist Manifesto were all themselves on the run from France, from Holland, and they were hiding in London, using places like the White Hart to hold their clandestine meetings. This is the British Museum. This is where Karl Marx, Lenin, many names. I mean, Lenin hid in London 5 times. People don't even know that Marx was here, never mind that Lenin was here 5 times. This building is where they would meet, unite. The pub I'm sat at, among others, is where they would drink, and they would have their clandestine meetings speaking in German, among other things, so that the English didn't understand what was going on. Now, bear in mind, now I'm rushing this video as a quick abbreviation so you understand the similarities and the pointless arguments that communists and capitalists have when they're both batting for the same team. You see, without communism, there was no controlled opposition to capitalism, which means natural opposition will take place. What Karl Marx says is not genius. It's pseudo-philosophy, and much of it is obvious, the flaws of capitalism. You're not winning any prizes with me for guessing the flaws of capitalism. So when you are being paid by the wealthiest capitalists in the world, it only indicates that they are getting ahead of those laymen that they want to control. They're stopping the factory worker from devising their own form of rebellion, which is why unions are so important. Pointless middlemen that don't need to exist. Unions would come later under names like Eleanor Marx, the daughter of Karl Marx, and what they do is they put in your mind that you need this magic middleman, when in fact the government should just treat its workers correctly and put the correct legislation in place. You don't need something called a union. And that's where we get things like communism and capitalism. These terms are used and devised by clever people so that we don't blame the few names that are involved in the system. So as decades pass, we'll say, oh, these damn communists. And a whole century might pass and we've been blaming communists, when in fact there was a few names responsible, which if only they were properly highlighted, it'd be easy to see that not only do they talk utter rubbish, that it's non-intellectual babble, but they're nefarious and evil in nature. And therefore the very premise of communism, like that of capitalism in a different discussion, is in itself null and void. And today the British Museum keeps the room where Engels and Marx and others would read. They keep that protected. You have to book ahead to go and see it. If I had my way, such places would be changed and only images of Marx would exist. You wouldn't have statues of him and Lenin and so on. The fact is, if you're going to attack communism, you first have to understand capitalism's place in it, and that both systems are heavily flawed, and that people believe that socialism is communism. It's not. They're very different. You need the right policies in the right place. Maybe with healthcare, the collection of tax for roads, you might have a socialistic avenue, whereas with something else, it might be capitalistic. But you're tricked into believing you have one or the other, and anything else outside is called the third position. I hope this has been helpful. It's a very short video just to help summarize what I'm trying to say. Please go and research the things I say and don't take my word for it. Think for yourself, and I'll see you soon.